The 1960s were a decade of rapid innovation in the automotive industry, but not every car was a hit. While some models became icons of style and performance, others were poorly designed, unreliable, or downright embarrassing. These were the cars aimed at the lower end of the market, vehicles that were often all a low-income buyer could afford. Here are 11 of the most disgusting cars from the 1960s that were as uninspiring as they were affordable.
Dear viewer, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for your support.
Number 11, 1962, Rambler Classic 550. The 1962 Rambler Classic 550 was positioned as an affordable, no-frills option for budget-conscious buyers. While its economical price and straightforward engineering were appealing to some, the car lacked the performance, style, and features that made competitors more attractive. Its uninspired design and sluggish inline-six engine left little to excite potential buyers. The Classic 550 adhered to AMC's utilitarian approach, resulting in a conservative, boxy appearance. While its simplicity kept costs down, it also made the car look outdated next to sleeker rivals like the Chevrolet Impala or the newly styled Ford Fairlane. The chrome trim was sparse, and the overall aesthetic lacked the boldness and flair that many consumers sought in the early 1960s. The Classic 550's plain look gave it a fleet vehicle vibe, which didn't appeal to drivers looking for a touch of personality. The Classic 550's interior reflected its economy car roots. Upholstery was plain and hard-wearing, with little attention given to comfort or style. Amenities like power windows, air conditioning, or even a decent radio were either optional or unavailable, reinforcing its budget-conscious image. Despite being a mid-size car, the cabin felt smaller and less accommodating compared to competitors. Legroom and headroom were adequate but not generous, and the materials used for the dashboard and seats were low-grade, emphasizing cost savings over quality. The Classic 550 was powered by AMC's 195.6 cubic-inch six-cylinder engine, producing around 90 to 125 horsepower, depending on the configuration. While adequate for casual driving, the engine struggled with acceleration, especially when the car was loaded with passengers or cargo. The engine's limited power output resulted in sluggish acceleration, making highway merging or passing other vehicles a nerve-wracking experience. The car's 3-speed manual transmission, standard in the base model, felt outdated and further limited its performance appeal. The Classic 550 did offer decent fuel efficiency for its time, making it an economical choice for budget-conscious drivers. However, its frugal nature came at the cost of excitement, as the engine was tuned more for reliability than performance. The suspension prioritized simplicity and cost, leading to a bumpy and unrefined ride. While tolerable for city driving, the car struggled on rougher roads or during longer journeys. The Classic 550 was mechanically simple, which meant fewer components to fail. However, its durability was undermined by low-quality materials, particularly in the interior, which wore out quickly under regular use. Like many cars of its era, the Classic 550 was prone to rust, particularly in the wheel wells and undercarriage. Poor corrosion resistance often led to significant repairs that could outweigh the car's initial affordability. In the midsize segment, the Rambler Classic 550 faced stiff competition from cars like the Chevrolet Nova, Ford Fairlane, and Plymouth Belvedere. These models offered more powerful engine options, better styling, and superior build quality, making the Classic 550 look dated and underwhelming by comparison. The Classic 550 found favor among fleet buyers, where its low cost and simplicity were seen as advantages. However, for individual consumers, the car's lack of style and performance made it a hard sell against more exciting alternatives. The Classic 550 didn't leave a strong legacy in the automotive world. It was seen as a competent but unexciting car, serving primarily as an economical option for families and businesses that prioritize cost over anything else. Today, the Classic 550 is largely forgotten by collectors and enthusiasts. Its basic nature and lack of standout features make it a rarity at car shows, and it doesn't command significant value in the vintage car market. The 1962 Rambler Classic 550 was a practical and economical choice for budget-conscious buyers, but it lacked the performance, style, and refinement of its competitors. Its uninspired design, sluggish inline-six engine, and basic interiors left it overshadowed by more modern and appealing rivals. While it served its purpose as a low-cost vehicle, the Classic 550 remains a footnote in the history of 1960s midsize cars. A reminder that practicality alone is rarely enough to make a car truly memorable. Number 10. 1960 Edsel Ranger. The 1960 Edsel Ranger marked the inglorious end of Ford's ill-fated Edsel brand, which had struggled since its flashy but misguided debut in 1958. The Ranger, meant to offer affordability in a shrinking Edsel lineup, failed to address the brand's fundamental problems. Awkwardly styled, plagued by reliability issues, and devoid of innovative features, the 1960 Ranger was a desperate attempt to salvage a sinking ship, and it showed. By 1960, the distinctive and polarizing horse-collar grille that had defined earlier Edsels was gone, replaced by a more conventional grille that failed to stand out. Unfortunately, the rest of the car still bore traces of the brand's earlier aesthetic quirks, creating an unbalanced and awkward design. The Ranger's taillights, intended to mimic jet exhausts, felt outdated and gimmicky in an era when other automakers were embracing cleaner, more modern lines. The car's overall look failed to capture the excitement of contemporary designs from rivals like Chevrolet and Plymouth. Cost-cutting was evident in the 1960 Ranger's interior. Materials were cheap, and the design lacked the flair or comfort buyers expected from a mid-price car. Basic features like air conditioning and power accessories were either optional or unavailable in the base trim. The dashboard layout, which had once been a selling point for Edsel, now felt dated compared to the more modern and ergonomic designs of competitors. It didn't help that build quality was inconsistent, with misaligned panels and rattling components common. 223 cubic inch, 3.7 liters. Inline six. Producing 145 horsepower, this engine struggled to provide adequate performance, especially in a car as heavy as the Ranger. 292 cubic inch, 4.8 liters. V8. Offering 185 horsepower, this was a step up in power, but fell short in smoothness and refinement compared to engines offered by rivals. Even with the V8, the Ranger felt sluggish, particularly under load. Poorly tuned transmissions exacerbated the problem, leading to a less than satisfactory driving experience. Both engines were prone to reliability issues, including frequent oil leaks, overheating, and ignition problems. Owners often found themselves dealing with stalling and rough idling, which only added to the car's reputation for unreliability. At a time when buyers were starting to prioritize economy, the Ranger's inefficient engines hurt its appeal further. By 1960, the Edsel brand was already a shadow of its former self. Initially launched to fill a gap between Ford and Mercury, the Ranger had little to differentiate it from the Ford Fairlane, which offered similar features for less money. Rivals like the Chevrolet Impala, Dodge Dart, and Plymouth Belvedere offered more modern styling, superior reliability, and a wider range of engine choices, making the Ranger feel like an outdated and overpriced option. Ford's reluctance to invest in Edsel was evident in the Ranger's build quality. Misaligned body panels, inconsistent paint finishes, and rattling interiors were common complaints. The combination of mechanical issues and low-quality materials meant that many 1960 Rangers deteriorated quickly, making them a poor investment even for budget-conscious buyers. Sales of the 1960 Edsel Ranger were abysmal. Ford officially discontinued the Edsel brand in November 1959, shortly after the 1960 model year began. Only 2,846 Rangers were sold, making it one of the rarest and least successful cars of its era. Today, the 1960 Ranger is remembered more as a symbol of the Edsel brand's failure than as a car in its own right. Its lack of innovation and poor execution served as a fitting epitaph for a brand that had failed to resonate with the public. The 1960 Edsel Ranger was a half-hearted swan song for a brand that had lost its way. With bland styling, outdated features, and a host of mechanical issues, it offered little to attract buyers. As a relic of one of the most infamous failures in automotive history, the Ranger serves as a cautionary tale about the perils of poor market positioning and product execution. While rare today, its lack of desirability ensures that it remains more of a curiosity than a classic. Number 9. 1969 Plymouth Barracuda. The 1969 Plymouth Barracuda, part of the first-generation A-body platform, was intended to compete in the rapidly growing pony car market dominated by the Ford Mustang and Chevrolet Camaro. While the Barracuda nameplate is now synonymous with muscle car legend, the base model of the 1969 lineup fell far short of its competitors' performance and excitement, offering a bare-bones package with none of the flair or power associated with its more celebrated trims. While the Barracuda's fastback and convertible designs were attractive in higher trims, the base model's understated appearance lacked the aggressive styling cues that muscle car buyers sought. Minimal chrome accents and plain wheels gave it a bland, utilitarian look. The interior was stripped down to the essentials. Vinyl bench seats, sparse instrumentation, and basic materials made the cabin feel cheap compared to rivals like the Mustang or Camaro, which offered more luxurious and sporty options. The base Barracuda came standard with a 225 cubic inch, 3.7-liter, slant 6 engine, producing just 145 horsepower. While the slant 6 was reliable and economical, it lacked the performance buyers expected from a car bearing the Barracuda name. The sluggish acceleration and lack of torque made the base Barracuda feel more like a commuter car than a pony car contender. Buyers hoping for the raw power and speed associated with the Barracuda's reputation were sorely disappointed. The base model's suspension was tuned more for comfort than performance, resulting in lackluster handling that failed to deliver the sharpness and excitement expected in this segment. Standard drum brakes lacked stopping power, especially when the car was driven hard, contributing to a driving experience that felt outdated even by 1969 standards. Rivals like the 1969 Ford Mustang, Chevrolet Camaro, and AMC Javelin offered more powerful base engines, sportier styling, and a wider range of customization options, leaving the Barracuda struggling to stand out. Although positioned as a budget-friendly option, the base Barracuda's limited features and underwhelming performance made it hard to justify against similarly priced competitors that offered more bang for the buck. One redeeming quality of the base Barracuda was its engine's reliability. The Slant 6 was known for its ruggedness, low maintenance requirements, and ability to withstand high mileage. While mechanically sound, the base model's overall build quality was average at best, with inconsistent panel gaps, basic materials, and a lack of refinement in fit and finish. The Barracuda's higher trims, equipped with big V8s like the 383 or the legendary 426 HEMI, were the true stars of the lineup, defining the car's legacy as a muscle car icon. In contrast, the base model felt like an afterthought, offering none of the excitement that made its siblings famous. While the base Barracuda sold decently as a practical, affordable option, it failed to inspire enthusiasm among car enthusiasts and was quickly overshadowed by the far superior V8-powered trims. The 1969 Plymouth Barracuda base model was a car caught between two identities, a practical, economical vehicle and a sporty muscle car. Unfortunately, it excelled at neither, leaving it overshadowed by its more powerful siblings and better-equipped competitors. While reliable and affordable, it lacked the muscle, style, and excitement needed to compete in the fiercely competitive pony car market. Today, the base Barracuda remains an overlooked footnote in the history of this iconic nameplate. Number 8. 1964 Dodge Dart 170. The 1964 Dodge Dart 170 was part of the Dart lineup, introduced by Dodge as a compact car designed to be affordable and practical. While the Dart 170 aimed to offer simplicity and economy, it was often criticized for its underwhelming performance, plain design, and lack of excitement compared to its rivals in the compact car segment. The Dart 170 featured simple, conservative styling, with minimal chrome and basic lines that made it look almost utilitarian. Unlike the more stylish offerings from rivals like the Chevrolet Chevy 2 or Ford Falcon, the Dart 170 was forgettable in terms of exterior appeal. Inside, the Dart 170 was even more basic. The interiors featured minimal options, with basic upholstery, a small dashboard, and no frills. While this helped keep costs low, it didn't win any points in terms of comfort or appeal. Its stark, functional cabin made it feel like little more than a budget car, lacking the charm or style that some competitors offered. The Dart 170 came equipped with the 170 cubic inch, 2.8-liter, slant-six engine, producing just 101 horsepower. While the engine was known for its reliability and fuel efficiency, it was underpowered for its size and the expectations placed on compact cars of the era. The entry-level engine struggled to provide the kind of acceleration and responsiveness that drivers expected from a compact car, making it feel sluggish on the road. The Dart 170 lacked the spirited driving experience found in competitors with more powerful engines or better handling characteristics. The Dart 170 featured a basic suspension system that didn't offer much in terms of smoothness or handling precision. While it wasn't uncomfortable, the ride quality didn't compare to the more refined compact cars in the market, and it often felt stiff or unresponsive. The compact car market in 1964 was growing rapidly, with plenty of competition in the form of the Ford Falcon, Chevrolet Chevy 2, and Plymouth Valiant. Many of these cars offered more powerful engines, more refined styling, and better overall performance, leaving the Dart 170 struggling to compete. The Dart 170 was primarily marketed as a low-cost option for budget-conscious buyers, but its lack of power, styling, and features left it feeling like a plain, no-frills choice. Those looking for a compact with personality and performance often turned to other brands. One of the key selling points of the Dart 170 was the reputation of its slant-six engine, known for its reliability and low maintenance costs. This made the car a solid choice for buyers looking for a durable, practical vehicle that would last. Despite its durability, the Dart 170's overall build quality was average, with a basic level of materials used in its construction. This meant that while it would last, it didn't feel refined or premium, and the lack of attention to detail in areas like fit and finish hurt its overall appeal. While the Dart 170 sold decently, it has largely been forgotten in the history of compact cars from the era. It never stood out in terms of performance, design, or features, which meant it didn't have the lasting impact that other compact cars like the Ford Falcon or Chevrolet Nova did. While the higher trims of the Dart, like the Dart 270 and the Dart GT, gained more recognition and attention, the Dart 170 remained a budget option with limited appeal. Its lack of performance and excitement kept it from becoming a favorite among car enthusiasts or everyday drivers looking for a more engaging ride. The 1964 Dodge Dart 170 was a car designed for budget-conscious buyers, but its lackluster engine, plain styling, and uninspiring performance made it one of the least exciting compact cars of its era. While it was reliable and affordable, it failed to stand out in a crowded market full of more refined, powerful, and stylish competitors. As a result, it remains a forgotten footnote in the history of compact cars, a model that offered little more than basic transportation for those who were more concerned with cost than driving excitement. Number 7. 1966 Pontiac Tempest Custom. The 1966 Pontiac Tempest Custom was the more affordable, less exciting version of the iconic Pontiac Tempest lineup. While the GTO variant garnered much attention for its performance and muscle car credentials, the Tempest Custom was a far more pedestrian offering, aimed at buyers seeking a more budget-friendly option. Unfortunately, its lack of performance, unremarkable styling, and underpowered engine made it easy to overlook in a crowded market. The Tempest Custom was far less flashy than the GTO or even the Tempest in higher trims. The exterior design was basic, with conservative lines and minimal use of chrome or styling flourishes. While it didn't look outdated, it didn't stand out in any meaningful way either. For buyers seeking something a bit more eye-catching or sporty, the Tempest Custom failed to deliver. The interior of the Tempest Custom was functional but uninspiring. Basic seats, A simple dashboard and minimal features left it feeling utilitarian. While this helped keep costs low, it also contributed to the car's lack of appeal compared to the more well-equipped rivals in the compact segment. The base engine for the Tempest Custom was a 230 cubic inch, 3.8-liter, inline-six, producing just 165 horsepower. While this was adequate for everyday driving, it was sluggish compared to the V8 options available in other cars of the era, including the more powerful Pontiac Tempest models. The engine lacked the performance or excitement that the GTO's V8 offered, making the Tempest Custom feel slow and uninspiring on the road. The engine's performance was adequate but unremarkable, which made the car a less appealing choice for those who were looking for something that packed a little more punch or excitement. The suspension and overall handling of the Tempest Custom were designed for comfort, but it didn't offer the sharp handling or sporty driving experience that made muscle cars popular. In fact, many rivals offered better overall performance and handling, which made the Tempest Custom seem like a second choice for anyone looking for a more engaging car. While the Pontiac GTO quickly became a symbol of muscle car performance, the Tempest Custom didn't stand out in the same way. It was positioned as a practical, affordable alternative, but in a market full of compact cars with more style and better performance, it struggled to attract attention. Other compact cars from brands like Chevrolet, Ford, and Dodge offered more exciting options in this price range. The Chevy Nova and Ford Fairlane were examples of more exciting alternatives, with better styling and more power under the hood. Even the Plymouth Valiant had a stronger presence in the segment. Like many Pontiacs of the time, the Tempest Custom was generally reliable. Its simpler design and more basic mechanical components meant fewer things could go wrong, which was a positive for those who needed an affordable, no-frills car. The inline-six engine was solid and durable, providing consistent performance for those who just needed a car that could get them from point A to point B without too many issues. While the Tempest Custom was reliable, its build quality was fairly basic. The interior materials were inexpensive, and the overall fit and finish were not as refined as higher-end models. This made the Tempest Custom feel more like a budget car rather than a well-designed, desirable compact. The Tempest Custom was often overshadowed by the more glamorous GTO and the more exciting competitors in the compact car segment. It didn't have the performance or the styling that would make it memorable, and it didn't carve out its own niche as a practical, affordable car. While the Tempest Custom found its share of buyers looking for an affordable car, it didn't leave much of a lasting impression. It didn't carry the same muscle car legacy as the GTO, and its unexciting performance and styling made it easy for buyers to forget. The 1966 Pontiac Tempest Custom was a car aimed at those looking for an affordable option, but it lacked the performance, style, and excitement that many other cars in its class offered. With a weak engine, basic styling, and mediocre handling, it was easy for buyers to overlook in favor of more exciting models, including its own higher performance sibling, the Pontiac GTO. While it was reliable and practical, the Tempest Custom ultimately failed to stand out in a crowded market, leaving it as a forgotten footnote in Pontiac's history. Number 6. 1968 Chevrolet Nova. The 1968 Chevrolet Nova, in its base model, was an entry-level compact car aimed at budget-conscious buyers, but it quickly became known for its lack of excitement and minimal features. While it was reliable and affordable, the base Nova offered little in terms of performance, styling, or comfort. Positioned as a practical choice for those who needed a no-frills car, the Nova's plainness and lack of power often left it overshadowed by its more exciting counterparts. The 1968 Nova's exterior design was utilitarian at best. While it wasn't unattractive, it lacked the flair or standout features that made some of its rivals appealing. The Nova's simple lines, minimal chrome detailing, and plain features made it a car that blended into the crowd. It didn't evoke excitement or pride of ownership like other cars in the same segment. Inside, the base Nova was as basic as it gets. The interior had minimal features, with low-quality materials that showed signs of wear over time. There were no frills, just functional plain seats, a simple dashboard, and an overall bare-bones approach to comfort. Buyers looking for any form of luxury or convenience were likely disappointed. The base Nova was equipped with a 230 cubic inch inline-six engine, producing only 140 horsepower. This engine was adequate for everyday driving but lacked the performance that many buyers wanted in a car. Acceleration was sluggish, and it struggled to handle highways or steep inclines with any sense of urgency. While the Nova had V8 engine options and higher trims, the base model's performance left much to be desired. With the six-cylinder engine, the Nova was simply not exciting to drive, and many buyers found themselves frustrated with its lack of power, especially compared to other compacts that offered more horsepower for a similar price. Handling was unremarkable, with a soft suspension that didn't offer much in terms of control or sportiness. It wasn't particularly agile in corners, and the ride was not particularly smooth or refined either. The Nova was a car designed to get from point A to point B, but not one to enjoy driving for its own sake. Despite its plainness, the Nova was built to last. It was a sturdy car with a strong frame and reliable mechanical components. The 230 inline-six engine was known for its simplicity, meaning that it was relatively easy to maintain and keep running for a long time. The Nova's no-nonsense design meant fewer parts to go wrong, and as a result, it earned a reputation for being a reliable daily driver. For buyers looking for a car that could simply get them from point A to point B without issues, the Nova was a solid choice. Like many cars of its era, the base Nova was prone to rust, especially around the wheel wells and undercarriage. Over time, the paint and bodywork could suffer from wear and corrosion, which wasn't ideal for those in regions with harsh climates or frequent rain. The base Nova was marketed as an affordable car for budget-conscious buyers, and it certainly lived up to that reputation. It was a car designed for practicality, not performance or aesthetics. However, this approach left it struggling to compete against more exciting and better-equipped options in the compact car market. The base Nova competed with other affordable cars such as the Ford Falcon and Chevrolet Chevelle, which offered more appealing features, styling, and performance. While the Nova was reliable and easy to maintain, it didn't stand out in a crowded field of compact cars. While the Nova became an important model in Chevrolet's lineup, the base model was often overlooked by buyers who wanted something more exciting or stylish. It was functional but uninspired, and its lack of performance and features kept it from being a standout in the compact car market. Over time, the Nova became recognized for its reliability, but that didn't compensate for its lack of personality. It was remembered as a car for those who prioritized practicality over enjoyment, and as a result, it's often seen as a more forgettable option from the 1960s. Base model was a cheap and reliable option for those looking for basic transportation, but its lack of performance, styling, and features kept it from being a desirable choice. It was designed as a no-frills vehicle, but its plainness made it easy to overlook, especially compared to rivals that offered more power, style, or amenities. While it was durable and economical, the Nova's base model failed to make a lasting impression, leaving it as one of the more forgettable entries in the 1960s compact car market. Number 5, a 1967 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser. The 1967 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser in its base model was a family-oriented station wagon that gained attention for its unique glass roof panels, offering passengers an expansive view of the sky. However, beyond its eye-catching design, the Vista Cruiser faced numerous shortcomings that affected its overall appeal. Despite its innovative styling, the base model struggled with underwhelming performance, cheap interiors, and inefficient powertrain choices, making it a less-than-ideal option for budget-conscious families. The standout feature of the Vista Cruiser was its glass roof panels, which extended from the windshield to the rear seats. This provided a panoramic view, adding a sense of openness and light to the cabin. While this was a unique and appealing feature, it didn't make up for the car's other deficiencies, particularly in performance and quality. Unfortunately, the rest of the design didn't match the boldness of the roof. The base Vista Cruiser featured cheap interiors with basic, functional materials. The seats were not particularly plush, and the overall cabin lacked the refinement found in more premium models. Though spacious, the car didn't feel luxurious, and the materials used in the dashboard and door panels felt more suited to a lower-budget vehicle. The base model of the Vista Cruiser was equipped with a 330 cubic inch V8 engine, which produced around 230 horsepower. While this might sound adequate on paper, the vehicle's size and weight made the engine feel sluggish. The power-to-weight ratio was not ideal, leading to poor acceleration and overall lackluster performance. The large size of the Vista Cruiser, combined with the underwhelming engine, resulted in poor fuel efficiency. For a family car, the Vista Cruiser wasn't economical, with many owners reporting that it consumed fuel quickly, especially around the city. The Vista Cruiser was a large, heavy vehicle, and its performance was compromised by its lack of power. The handling was uninspiring, and the suspension system didn't offer the smoothest ride on rough roads. It was more of a cruiser than a car you'd want to take on winding roads or highways with any sense of performance in mind. Despite its appealing design, the Vista Cruiser was prone to rust and corrosion, particularly around the rear wheel wells and lower portions of the body. The glass roof panels also created some issues with leaks over time, especially if the seals weren't properly maintained. This issue was particularly problematic in regions with heavy rainfall or snow. The interiors of the base Vista Cruiser were made with materials that wore out quickly. The upholstery faded and the dashboard cracked after prolonged exposure to the sun. While the cabin offered plenty of space, its cheap materials quickly detracted from its appeal. The Vista Cruiser's main selling point was its size and spaciousness, which made it attractive to families. The glass roof panels set it apart from other station wagons, giving it a unique selling point. However, other competitors in the station wagon market, such as the Ford Country Squire or Chevrolet Caprice Estate, offered better performance and quality for a similar price. Though its styling set it apart, the Vista Cruiser struggled to compete with rivals that offered more power, more comfortable interiors, and better overall value for money. The large size and sluggish performance of the base model made it less competitive against lighter, more efficient wagons in its class. While the Vista Cruiser's glass roof panels were a conversation starter, they didn't make up for the car's underwhelming engine and poor overall driving experience. The car's size, poor fuel efficiency, and lack of refinement left it with a reputation for being more of a novelty than a reliable family car. The 1967 Vista Cruiser was ultimately targeted at a specific group of buyers, those who valued its unique styling or had a particular need for a larger wagon. However, the base model's lack of power and practicality limited its appeal, and the vehicle was quickly overshadowed by competitors offering better performance and more comfort. The 1967 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser base model was a car that promised more than it delivered. While its glass roof panels and unique styling were eye-catching, the car's underwhelming performance, cheap interiors, and poor fuel efficiency made it difficult to recommend for anyone on a budget or seeking a reliable family car. While it had moments of innovation, such as the glass roof, the base Vista Cruiser ultimately fell short of the mark when it came to overall driving experience and long-term reliability. Number 4, 1962 Dodge Dart. The 1962 Dodge Dart in its base trim was an entry-level compact car that appealed mainly to budget-conscious buyers. However, while it was an affordable option, the Dart's base model was plagued by underwhelming performance, outdated styling, and lack of features that made it a less than appealing choice compared to its competitors. Despite being one of the more affordable cars of its time, the Dart failed to excite with its weak engine choices and utilitarian design. The base trim of the 1962 Dodge Dart lacked the visual appeal of more upscale models or its competitors. Its design was unremarkable, with boxy lines and minimal chrome accents, making it feel outdated even when it was new. The styling was functional but offered little in the way of flair or innovation, leaving the Dart looking like a basic economy car with little thought given to design. Inside, the Dart's base model was even more uninspiring. The interior was minimalistic, with simple, no-frills seating, a basic dashboard, and sparse features. Hard plastics and cloth upholstery made the cabin feel cheap and utilitarian. While the interior was functional, it lacked the comfort and style found in other compact cars of the era. The 1962 Dart base trim came with a 145 cubic inch, 2.4-liter inline-six engine, which produced only 101 horsepower. This engine was sluggish and unrefined, particularly compared to competitors that offered more powerful or smoother engines. The Dart's performance was underwhelming, with acceleration that felt lethargic and a top speed that was nothing to brag about. For drivers seeking a peppy and engaging driving experience, the Dart's base engine was a letdown. It was a car designed primarily for economy and practicality, but it left much to be desired in terms of driving enjoyment. The engine's weak output meant that the Dart struggled to keep up on highways, and its performance was far from exciting. While the Dart was marketed as an economy car, its performance didn't necessarily translate into impressive fuel efficiency. With a sluggish engine, it didn't make the best use of its fuel, and owners found themselves needing to refuel more often than they would have liked, especially given its low power output. The 1962 Dart's build quality reflected its low price point. While it wasn't necessarily prone to breakdowns, the base trim was constructed with cheaper materials, including thinner sheet metal and basic interior components. This made the car more vulnerable to wear and tear, especially over time. Like many cars of this era, the Dart suffered from rust issues, particularly around the wheel wells, undercarriage, and other exposed metal parts. The use of lower quality materials meant that the car didn't hold up as well in harsher climates or after years of use. By 1962, the compact car market had evolved, with many competitors offering more refined designs, better performance, and greater features. Models like the Chevrolet Corvair, Ford Falcon, and Chevrolet Nova were more appealing, offering more power, better styling, and a more modern feel. The Dart base trim felt behind the times, struggling to compete with more innovative models that offered better value for a similar price. While the Dodge Dart name eventually became synonymous with a more powerful and sporty compact, especially in the later 1960s, the 1962 base trim struggled to make a mark. Dodge would later release higher performance versions of the Dart, such as the Dart GT, but the base trim was relegated to those seeking the cheapest option in the market. The 1962 Dodge Dart base trim has largely been forgotten by collectors and enthusiasts, overshadowed by the more powerful and better equipped versions of the Dart and its rivals. While it served a practical purpose for budget-conscious buyers, the base Dart didn't offer much excitement or innovation. The combination of weak engine choices, outdated design, and lack of features made it a car that was quickly overlooked in favor of more appealing options. For the price, the Dart offered basic transportation, but little else. It lacked the spark or excitement of some of its more successful competitors, and its legacy has been overshadowed by the more iconic models from the 1960s. The 1962 Dodge Dart base trim was a basic, no-frills economy car that struggled to make a lasting impression. Its weak engine, bland styling, and uninspiring design left it lacking compared to other compact cars of the era. While it offered affordable transportation, it didn't do much else to excite drivers or attract attention. The base Dart was a car for those who needed something basic and functional, but for anyone seeking style, performance, or a more enjoyable driving experience, it was easy to look elsewhere. Number 3. 1968 Mercury Montego. The 1968 Mercury Montego, in its base model, was intended as a mid-size car that could offer a balance between comfort and affordability. However, the base Montego often felt more like an afterthought in Mercury's lineup, lacking the excitement and refinement of its higher trims or competitors in its class. While it was marketed as a family-friendly option with a reasonable price tag, it failed to stand out in terms of design, performance, or features, making it less appealing to those seeking a more engaging or stylish vehicle. The base Montego had a design that was relatively bland for the time. The exterior styling was typical of mid to late 1960s American sedans, with clean lines but no distinctive elements that would make it memorable. The car's proportions were generally square, and while it wasn't unattractive, it didn't have the flair that other cars in its class had. Unlike the more exciting Mercury Cougar or the more stylish Ford Torino, the base Montego seemed stuck in a design limbo, offering little to excite potential buyers. Inside, the base Montego featured basic, no-frills materials, including hard plastics and cloth upholstery that felt cheap and uninspiring. The dashboard and controls were functional, but lacked the elegance of higher-end models, and the design didn't go beyond the bare essentials. The interior could feel cramped and lacking in modern amenities, which detracted from its appeal, especially when compared to other vehicles in the same price range. The base engine options for the 1968 Montego were limited and underpowered for a mid-size car. The standard engine was a 200 cubic inch 3.3-liter inline-six that produced just 120 horsepower. While adequate for basic commuting, it lacked the punch or excitement that many buyers of mid-size cars were looking for. The Montego also offered a V8 option, but even then, the power outputs were nothing to write home about. The Montego's performance was uninspiring. The lack of horsepower from its standard inline-six engine made the car feel sluggish, and the handling was less refined than competitors like the Chevrolet Chevelle or Plymouth Satellite, which offered more responsive driving dynamics. The Montego felt heavy and slow, which made it less enjoyable on both highways and winding roads. The Montego's fuel economy was average for the era, but considering its performance, it didn't offer the best efficiency. The base engine's power was insufficient to make the car feel responsive, yet it still consumed fuel at a relatively high rate, especially in city driving conditions. This lack of fuel economy combined with weak performance made the car feel inefficient. Like many base models of the time, the 1968 Montego was built with cost-cutting measures in mind. The body materials, while sturdy, were susceptible to rust, particularly around the wheel wells and undercarriage. The interior materials, such as the cheap vinyl and cloth upholstery, wore down quickly, and the dashboard features looked basic and unrefined. The Montego didn't have the same durability or long-term reliability that more premium models could offer. As with many cars from the 1960s, the Montego was prone to rust, especially in areas with cold or humid climates. The lack of a high-quality rust-proofing system meant that owners often found themselves dealing with corrosion issues over time, especially in the undercarriage and wheel wells. The 1968 Mercury Montego faced stiff competition from other mid-size sedans that offered better performance, more attractive styling, or better overall value. Chevrolet Chevelle, Ford Torino, and Plymouth Satellite all offered more exciting performance options, higher quality interiors, and a broader range of features at a comparable price. The Montego didn't quite match up, and its base model was left looking like a budget option in a sea of better choices. The late 1960s saw a shift towards more stylish and sporty cars, and the Montego base model seemed to be aimed more at budget-conscious buyers than enthusiasts. For those seeking more performance or flair, the Montego's base trim didn't offer much. While the Montego had an affordable price tag, it often didn't provide enough to stand out in the competitive mid-size car market. The 1968 Mercury Montego base model was a basic and uninspired mid-size sedan. Despite being positioned as an affordable option, the Montego suffered from weak engine choices, an unremarkable design, and subpar interior materials. It was overshadowed by its competitors and higher trim models within the Mercury lineup, offering little to excite buyers looking for more than just basic transportation. Its uninspiring performance, lack of features, and cheap construction made it a forgettable entry in the mid-size car market. For those seeking a practical and budget-friendly ride, it may have sufficed, but it failed to stand out or make an impact on the market in a meaningful way. Number 2. 1960 Dodge Dart Seneca. The 1960 Dodge Dart Seneca was the most basic trim in the Dodge Dart lineup for its inaugural year. Positioned as a budget-friendly entry-level option, the Seneca offered a no-frills approach to transportation, making it affordable but lacking in many areas that would appeal to buyers seeking something more exciting. While the Dart was an attempt to capture the growing compact car market, the Seneca was a model that simply met basic needs without offering much else in terms of performance, style, or features. The Seneca's design was functional but incredibly uninspiring. The exterior styling followed a very traditional American car look of the time, with wide fenders and flat lines. The front grille was basic, and there was nothing particularly distinct about the Seneca compared to other cars in the compact segment. Unlike its more stylish siblings, such as the Dodge Dart Phoenix, the Seneca lacked any design flair that could have made it stand out. The interior of the Dodge Dart Seneca was equally sparse. It featured basic vinyl upholstery, simple controls, and no real emphasis on comfort or aesthetics. There were few frills and the cabin felt cheap, with low-grade materials used throughout. While the car was affordable, the lack of refinement and upgraded features left it feeling underwhelming compared to competitors with better-equipped interiors. The base engine in the 1960 Dart Seneca was a 225 cubic inch, 3.7-liter inline-six producing around 145 horsepower. While sufficient for basic transportation, it was far from exciting. Drivers looking for something with more get up and go would likely have been disappointed by its lackluster performance. The car's acceleration and overall driving experience were uninspiring, making it feel sluggish, especially when compared to other compact cars or even some larger sedans with comparable or more powerful engines. Though there were higher performance versions of the Dart with V8 options, the Seneca was aimed at budget-conscious buyers and stuck with the base engine. The lack of choice meant that buyers had no chance of upgrading for a more powerful engine, limiting the car's appeal for those seeking a more dynamic driving experience. The six-cylinder engine offered decent fuel economy, but didn't set any records for efficiency. While it was a compact car, the Dart Seneca wasn't the best choice for those prioritizing miles per gallon. It was more about basic transportation rather than cost-effectiveness and fuel savings. In an effort to keep costs down, the Dart Seneca was built with basic materials that lacked durability and refinement. While it didn't fall apart right away, the interior components such as seats, trim, and the dashboard wore out quickly. The cheap vinyl upholstery cracked and faded over time, while the plastic interior trim felt flimsy and brittle. The metal body wasn't particularly prone to rust, but it lacked any special protection or durability features that would have extended its life in harsher environments. The Dart Seneca had poor sound insulation, meaning that road noise and engine vibrations were noticeable inside the cabin, adding to the discomfort during longer trips or highway driving. This made it less pleasant compared to rivals that offered quieter and more refined experiences. The 1960 Dodge Dart Seneca faced stiff competition from other compact cars that offered better styling, more advanced features, or more powerful engine options. Chevrolet's Corvair and Ford's Falcon both offered more attractive packages with better interior options and a wider range of performance choices. Even within the Dodge Dart family, the Phoenix and Plymouth Valiant were seen as more appealing models, offering better design, more performance, and more attractive features for a slightly higher price. The Dodge Dart Seneca was marketed as an economy car, so it was priced for affordability, but its lack of performance or style made it less desirable in a market that was beginning to see more exciting and refined options. Buyers looking for more than just basic transportation might have quickly passed on the Seneca in favor of a car that offered more personality or capabilities. The 1960 Dodge Dart Seneca was a bare-bones, entry-level compact that prioritized affordability over everything else. While it was cheap, its bland design, basic interior, and underpowered engine left much to be desired. In a market that was increasingly looking for more performance, style, and features, the Seneca was overshadowed by both its competitors and more premium versions of the Dart. It offered basic transportation but little else, and its lack of appeal meant it quickly faded into obscurity in a competitive and rapidly changing automotive landscape. For those seeking a more exciting or feature-rich car, the Seneca was a model to be overlooked. Number 1966 Plymouth Barracuda. The 1966 Plymouth Barracuda was part of the second generation of the iconic model, which had debuted in 1964 as one of the first pony cars, predating the Ford Mustang. However, by the time the 1966 model arrived, the Barracuda was struggling to live up to its potential. While its name suggested performance and sportiness, the base model was far from the performance-oriented car that many had hoped for. With an underpowered engine and lackluster styling, the 1966 Barracuda failed to compete with the Mustang and its growing list of rivals in the muscle car market. The base model of the 1966 Barracuda came equipped with the 225 cubic inch, 3.7-liter slant-six engine, producing just 145 horsepower. While the slant-six engine was known for its reliability and decent fuel economy, it lacked the muscle and performance expected from a car with the Barracuda name. This engine made the Barracuda feel sluggish, with acceleration that was far behind other vehicles in the pony car segment, including the Ford Mustang with its available V8 options. The lack of a more powerful engine option in the base model meant that the Barracuda's performance was greatly underwhelming. Buyers looking for a sporty, fun-driving experience found the Slant 6 engine to be a disappointment, especially considering that cars like the Mustang were offering V8 options that provided a much more thrilling ride. The base Barracuda was simply too tame to attract serious performance enthusiasts. The base model was also unrefined in terms of handling. While the Barracuda was designed as a compact muscle car, its suspension and chassis didn't provide the balance or responsiveness seen in more performance-focused models. For a car with sporty intentions, it lacked the driving dynamics that made its rivals more desirable. While the 1966 Barracuda had an updated design with a new grille, the styling still lacked the muscle car appeal of the era. The changes weren't enough to significantly differentiate it from earlier models, and it never truly captured the aggressive and sharp styling that made the Ford Mustang so iconic. The slant-back design, while unique, lacked the boldness and instant appeal of other pony cars. By the mid-1960s, the Mustang had already firmly established itself as the quintessential American pony car, with its sleek lines, powerful V8 options, and overall appeal to young buyers. The Barracuda, despite its early arrival, was now fighting an uphill battle. It lacked the visual impact that the Mustang had in spades, and while the Barracuda was certainly sporty in its own right, it wasn't as striking or attention-grabbing. The base model also had a fairly basic interior, offering little more than the essentials. It was functional, but lacked the comfort and flair that buyers had come to expect from sportier models of the time. The plain interior and limited options did little to elevate the driving experience. The Barracuda name carried a certain weight with it, but the base 1966 model did little to live up to expectations. It was designed to attract a younger crowd looking for a sporty car, but with a lack of power and performance options, it fell short. Potential buyers interested in a muscle car or pony car experience were more likely to look at the Ford Mustang or other performance models that offered more bang for their buck. The Barracuda's base model was relatively affordable, but it still didn't offer enough performance or features to make it an attractive option when compared to competitors like the Chevrolet Camaro or Ford Mustang. While the Barracuda had some strengths, such as its reliable engine and good build quality, it struggled to stand out in a growing and competitive market. The 1966 Barracuda could have been a true competitor to the Mustang, but its underpowered engine, uninspiring styling, and lack of features meant it was more of a footnote in the pony car era, rather than a leader. The car did have a legacy to live up to, but it didn't make the most of its potential. The 1966 Barracuda did little to improve the car's standing in the pony car wars. While it retained some of the Barracuda's early charm, it didn't evolve enough to compete with the powerful Ford Mustang or newer, more aggressive models like the Chevrolet Camaro. Despite the Barracuda's early advantage as one of the first pony cars, by 1966, it had fallen behind in terms of performance and market relevance. The 1966 Plymouth Barracuda, base model, was a missed opportunity in the competitive world of pony cars. While it carried the name of an iconic model, it lacked the power, style, and performance to live up to its legacy. The Slant 6 engine, though reliable, was too underwhelming for the expectations set by its competitors. Meanwhile, the styling and overall appeal were eclipsed by the Mustang's dominance. For buyers looking for a true sporty experience, the Barracuda was a letdown. It remained a compact car with a touch of spoo,